Hello, everyone. We are back. We are on our world tour around the world looking at the different continents of the world and what staple plants, staple foods grow on each continent. So, if you remember, we went over our big world map and I put some different foods on each continent that are typical for that continent. And this is just to trigger your mind and just to give you a quick reminder that, there's a lot of seafood that grows in this area or that's raised in this area that lives in this area. There's a lot of rice in this area. There's a lot of beans in this area. And then you can look at the rest of these slides and you can be reminded of what we're going to go over here in a bit, which is Africa. Right here in the middle of the slide, we have the huge continent of Africa with tons and tons of different countries on it and lots of different foods that we get in Africa. Now, these foods are a little bit different than what we get in North America or Europe because the weather is different there, and the land is different there, and the water sources are different there, and everything's a little bit different. So, this is what I mean when I talk about geography matters when you're talking about food. And when you go to different areas of the world, you will encounter different types of food in different areas of the world. So, if you remember, we're learning right now about what staple foods are, and mainly the plant based staple foods. We'll get into the protein based staple foods and the dairy based staple foods in a little bit in another lesson. But for now, I want you to be thinking about all of the plant based staple foods that grow in the world. Again, I want to stress how interesting it is that there's 50,000 different edible plants that you can eat on the planet, but only 15 of these are make up 90% of our diet and are form the basis of all of the food for the entire planet for all of humanity. So 15 of these. Some of them are rice, wheat, corn, potatoes. We've looked at different beans, different grains in some of the different continents. And here in Africa, we're going to look at some other ones. Before we do that, let's make sure we know where we are in the world. If you look at the map of the world in the green here at the bottom of the slide, you'll see the arrows pointing to Africa right there in the middle. It's right underneath Europe, it's right to the east of North America and South America, and it's big. It's very, very big. The weather here, well, let's start at the beginning. The staples here are similar to some of the staples in Europe, which is just right above it. There's also the cereal grains. I've shown you a picture of the grains. There's all kinds of things like bulgur and different rices and all kinds of different things like that. But something special here is yams. Yams are sweet potatoes, a type of potato. So in the north, up in Europe, you'll have regular white potatoes, yellow potatoes, red potatoes, and when as you travel south into Africa, you'll start to see more yams and sweet potatoes and really dark orange type potatoes, and that's very typical of some of the areas of Africa. And again, like I said, these are just generalities. You can never say that one thing is the main staple in a big continent like Africa because there's so many countries there and there's so many different types of food there. This lesson is just to dip your toe in the water of the world and the continents of the world and what's going on out there outside of your own neighborhood and your own city, and to see what other people eat a little bit. I just want you to start to get a feel for it. And in other courses here at Sizzle Kids, I will go into more detail on specific countries and what those countries eat. Like I said in other lessons, my two favorite subjects are geography and cooking and food and nutrition. So I love these two things so much. And we're going to have a lot of lessons, and there's going to be a lot of opportunity to study in depth. For example, what they eat in South Africa versus what they eat maybe in Egypt, or what they eat in Somalia or Ethiopia. We'll go into each country all over the world. It'll be so fun. But for now, I just want you to get a little bit of a taste of, in the United States, we have a lot of wheat. there's not as much wheat in Africa, and we'll learn why with some of the weather patterns there. But basically, you're going to see a lot of grains, a lot of beans, some rices, and some of these sweet potatoes. Cassava is a very interesting plant that you'll see a lot of in Africa now. It's not native to Africa; it actually is native to South America. But in about the 1600s, Portuguese sailors introduced it to Africa, and it grows in Africa now. And so what it is it's a plant, and the roots of the plant is what you eat. And you can see over here on the side that says geography by the maps. This is what a cassava root looks like. It's white on the inside and brown on the outside. It's very much the consistency of a turnip, if you know what a turnip is, or a raw potato, like a raw russet potato. Kind of that same kind of consistency, but it's plant. It's just a plant. It's a root. And a lot of things in Africa are made from cassava. They make flour out of cassava, and you can make baked goods out of it. They don't have the wheat that we have in North America, in Africa. So cassava is used for in place of wheat in a lot of dishes. And one fun fact that I found out about when I was studying Africa to teach you was there's this dish called fufu. Awesome name. Great name. Love the name. It's called fufu. I mean, who doesn't want to eat fufu, right? It's a gelatinous dough. So gelatin is kind of a sticky, kind of like jello. If you think about jello, it's kind of a gelatinous dough made from yams or cassava. Yams are the sweet potato, the orange potato, or cassava, which is this root that's kind of like a potato or a turnip, or plantains, which are like bananas but less sweet. And they make these staple foods into a dough. It's kind of gelatinous, kind of like it would kind of be like jello a little bit, or if you know what mochi is, which is a Asian kind of rice, gelatinous rice dish or snack, something like that. But it's these little doughs, and they're little squishy things, and they bake them and they make them into little like bread doughs, and it's called fufu. Just thought that was a fun name and a fun thing. And if I ever get to Africa, which I've never been, but I would love to go, if I ever get to Africa, I'm definitely going to seek out some fufu and try it. So we have the staples here: yams, grains, cassava, things like that. The land there is plains and grasslands and desert mainly. The plains are going to be all flat. We don't have a lot of mountains like we have in North America or South America. We have the Rocky Mountains in North America, huge mountains. We have the Andes Mountains in South America, huge mountain ranges. We don't have huge mountain ranges in Africa. What we have are plains lands, lots of flatlands, and we have grasslands where you get the cereal grains from, and the yams and the cassavas will grow in the flatlands. The weather there is warm and dry. You guys have all probably heard about the Sahara Desert. Very warm, very dry. Um, that's the weather you're going to get there, and that affects what kind of water their crops need. So they do get rain there, but it's very seasonal, and there's a rainy season for one part of the year, and then the rest of the year is very dry. And so the rainy season is really important to any crop that grows in Africa. But they also have to use irrigation. And before they had irrigation in Africa, it was very hard for them to get a lot of the food that they needed, and a lot of the staple foods that they needed. So now there's a little bit more irrigation in various areas of Africa, and that's how they water their crops. Um, so that's basically the overview of Africa. Here are some typical African dishes. Again, Africa is a huge continent, lots of countries. This is not every country. This is just a few of the countries that we are looking at. In For breakfast, we have these little um, uh, pastry kind of donuts. For lunch, we have this is a peanut stew. We have the peanut stew with rice. For dinner, this is a typical Ethiopian dinner where it has a lot of the different beans and grains and the bread. that they eat their meal with, which is like a flatbread. It doesn't rise, it's a flatbread. For snacks, there's falafel. This is very indicative to, or comes out of the northern part of the African nations. And then again, for the dessert, we have this braided donut, which is very typical of African pastries that they would eat for dessert. So in the written lesson I have for this lesson, I give you all the names of all of these dishes. I didn't want to put them here because I don't know if I'm saying them correctly, but they're really fun. If you ever get to Africa, try out some of these dishes. Check out the names of them in the written part of this lesson. You can download any of these slides to remind you about Africa, about the staples, about the land, the weather, the water, and some examples of the food that you might get if you travel to Africa. All right, guys, next we're off to Asia. So come and meet me over there.